Welcome everyone to the second part of Club Industry's Town Hall on allaying member fears with good cleaning protocols after reopening. I'm Pamela Kufal, Director of Content for Club Industry. This is our seventh virtual town hall, and you might notice that this town hall is a bit different from past town halls. We are recording these in advance right now to allow for more flexibility with our town hall participants. Since this is the second part of the town hall on cleaning and disinfecting protocols, I will ask the panel to respond to some of the questions that we didn't get to on the first town hall on this topic. We have 4 new panelists this week, but some of the panelists and sponsors from the previous cleaning town hall have responded to some of the unanswered questions, and we posted those responses on our town hall page at clubindustry.com. And all of our previous town halls are also available on demand at the town hall link on clubindustry.com. So check those out there, including the first part of this cleaning town hall. So before we get started, I want to thank our sponsors for today's town hall, Fitness EMS, which as part of its fitness equipment and asset management system is offering Club Shield program for reopening clubs, Zogix, which provides cleaning, disinfecting, and sanitizing products for the fitness industry, and Volt, which makes moisturizing hand sanitizers designed to condition hands while killing viruses. Each of these companies is committed to helping you reopen safely, and we appreciate the value they place on educating you about how to keep your facilities clean and how to market that so your members feel comfortable about returning to your club. These companies have the opportunity to also respond to your questions in writing, and will post those responses online for you. So let's get to today's panelists. We have today Maria Turco, founder of Honor Yoga, a yoga franchisor. We have Eddie Johnston, Director of Operations at Chelsea Piers, Connecticut, and Chelsea Piers Fitness. Blair McHaney, owner of Clubworks, a facility in Washington State, and also Blair is CEO of MXM. And Dr. Bruce Sherman, President of Gym Valet B&D Specialty Concepts. So welcome everyone, and thanks for taking the time to respond to questions from the industry on this important topic. We appreciate you having you here.
Thanks, Pam.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm going to start this town hall the same way I did the last one on this topic by asking our 3 club operators to take about 5 minutes or so to share when they anticipate their clubs will reopen, if they haven't already reopened, and I believe none of yours has, but also sharing some of your overarching protocols for cleaning and disinfecting, and things such as, whether you'll require staff and members to wear masks, to take their temperatures, etc. Who you consulted with to create your protocols, things like that. And then we'll have Bruce kind of share some thoughts on cleaning best practices just from his perspective as well. So Maria, let's go ahead and start with you, because we haven't really had any studio operators on our town halls in the past. And so you're going to bring a unique perspective for us to this. Talk a little bit about the protocols that you have in place for Honor Yoga and your franchisees.
Sure, Pam. Thanks for having us. Well, as Eddie mentioned when we first started this session, a studio is a little different than a gym. And I'm also a Crunch franchisee owner, and those are about 30,000 square feet, where studios that we own are anywhere between 2,000 and 3,500 square feet. So it becomes a little bit more challenging to space people out in a boutique environment. But the things that we're doing now, we are a franchisor, so we're also in 10 states. So we really need to put some parameters in place that we expect as minimum standards for all of our franchisees, yet allow some flexibility because each state is also approaching this a little differently. So the minimum standards that we're putting in place are that there needs to be some type of COVID-safe cleaning solution. I'm sure Bruce will educate us on that particular topic, as well as hand sanitizers. We are giving every participant that comes in, because it is a boutique experience, a personalized spray bottle with an alcohol solution, because we did this before we shut down, and our members told us how they felt empowered, that they were able to clean their own blocks, clean their own mats, clean, the props that they use for yoga. We also encourage the purchase of their own personal props, but not everyone can afford that. So we needed to be able to give people an opportunity to feel empowered to clean their own products. One of the things that we'll be doing when we reopen is also spacing out classes and when they start. So in a boutique environment, you could have people coming and going in the lobby. You could have tighter times between classes, whereas now we need to spread classes more than, at least 30 minutes apart to allow 15 minutes to exit and 15 minutes to enter the studio. A big thing is obviously limiting class size to allow, space 3 feet, 6 feet between students. Our teachers cannot do any hands-on adjusts. So we're limiting hands-on adjustments for the time being when we do reopen our studios. So those are, really, the minimum standards that we have. And of course, I think I mentioned hand sanitizers so that every member feels like I have, product, I'm empowered, I can make my space clean, and I can also be social distance. The things that we're giving franchisees an opportunity to opt into, depending on the state, like I live in New Jersey, and you can't go into any establishment without either having your temperature taken or wearing a mask. And so that's New Jersey. However, some states are not, so stringent. So we're leaving the masks and the thermometers up to the individual franchisee, whether or not they want to offer that. Because we do yoga, masks make it very difficult to do the pranayama and the breathing. And many of our franchisees have taken upon themselves to install things like UV lights and looking at technology that's advanced for their HVAC system to help, kill viruses that are in the air. So those are some of the measures that they're taking on an individual basis.
That's great. Yeah, you have a unique situation there where you have a variety of states that your franchisees are in. So you kind of have to be able to adapt depending on what those franchisees' state requirements are. So thank you, Maria. Eddie, you also have facilities in Connecticut as well as New York. So you're dealing with 2 state protocols as well, I guess, or requirements as well. Can you share with us a little bit about what you have planned at your facilities?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we are in 2 different states, but I think for the most part, Connecticut and New York are really going to be part of, they're part of this upper East Coast, New England area group where everyone's going to be on the same page about everything and really, trying to do everything the same way, which is helpful. Dates are going to a little bit. So as far as opening, we're still hopeful for a June opening. Whether that's likely or not, my guess is as good as yours, but we'll see. And the point that we're trying to drive home is just to be prepared. So if it's a June opening, we're trying to finish everything up right now, make sure that we're done, with all our protocols buttoned up in the next 2 weeks or so that we're ready. Because the one thing we don't want to do is not be ready. If and on that point, if we were allowed to open and we didn't feel ready, we wouldn't open. So I think that's something that a lot of gyms and clubs should take into account. If you don't feel confident in your protocol, then you're not ready, and just give it some time. So as far as what we have been doing to set ourselves up for success is
You're cutting out there a little bit for us, Eddie. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Blair, and once you come back, we'll get back to you there. Blair, maybe share with us a little bit about what's. Oh, there you go, Eddie.
There's Eddie.
You're back. Sorry, you cut out there a little bit.
I think you're on mute, Eddie.
Sorry.
There you go.
The window closed
there
down.
You go.
There was a glitch.
Technology.
Yeah. Where was
Yeah,
this?
you were talking about if you're not ready, don't open up.
Yeah. So, what we're doing we kind of broke this down to start at a very high level. Things that I think all clubs, know at this point. Everyone's kind of been seeing all the guidance that's been coming out. But we broke this down into disinfection, distancing is something that we're going to have to do, obviously, and hygiene. And then we kind of dove into those areas. So from a disinfection perspective, We're lucky enough to have a very good housekeeping director at our facilities. He spent 20 years as a housekeeping director at various hospitals before he joined us. So we had some pretty good procedures in place, but it was a lot of just buttoning up those procedures. So making sure that the chemicals that we are using are on the EPA list and approved for the coronavirus at this time. Contact time is a big thing that's coming up now. That a lot of people didn't really know about before, but making sure that when you are spraying something down, that the solution stays on the surface long enough to actually kill the virus that you're trying to kill. If you spray and just immediately wipe it off, you're not achieving what we're actually trying to achieve. And making sure that you're covering the whole area of a piece of equipment. So if you're using, if you're doing free weights, you got to make sure that you hit the back of the handles. So in the same vein, we're retraining our staff. This is a perfect time to relook at our procedures, and we're going to be bringing staff back about 2 weeks in advance, our entire housekeeping team, and making sure that all these new protocols are put in place and everything is good on that front. So as far as distancing goes, what we did was we took all the areas of our facility and we tried to figure out how many people can actually be in those areas, because occupancies are clearly going to change for all areas. So it depends on what you're looking at. Studios, depend on the class. If you're doing a HIIT class, you're going to need a little more space. So we're giving everybody a 12 by 12 area to work in for a HIIT class. For a yoga class, you're really not leaving your mat as much. So everyone's getting 8 by 8 area around their mat. For the gym floor, say cardio equipment, you have some restrictions there where they need certain power requirements. So you really can't move those around. So, space them out as much as you can. But, if you can't, then we're going to put signs on certain equipment and shut things down. And then on top of that, we're getting creative. You got to get creative with the space that you have. Not all gyms have extra space. Within the 3 clubs that we're working with, Chelsea Piers, Connecticut is an enormous facility. We have 500,000 square feet, and we're not going to be running most of our regular business, so we have a lot of space to work with. So we're running classes on our turf field, which is a 100-yard turf field. We're running classes on our basketball and our volleyball courts. We're utilizing squash courts where you're not going to be able to play as much squash. Squash is going to be more of you go in and you practice on your own. We don't need all our courts for that reason. We're putting free weights and equipment that doesn't require power, like rowers and aerosol bikes, in these courts, so that we can use those as workout circuits. So you got to get creative. Any space you have, you should be utilizing, and get creative with that non-powered equipment, because you can move it anywhere.
Right. That's great. Yeah,
then
you've
from
definitely.
hygiene.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes.
Go
No.
ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say, it sounds like you've really thought through a lot of this and the distancing as well, and then bringing your staff back early, because I think that's something else that's really important, is ensuring that your staff knows what the protocols are and are trained on those protocols. So that's fantastic. You want to finish up with the hygiene part you were starting with there?
So from the hygiene perspective, that's kind of the washing your hands, hand sanitizer, wipes. So we just kind of looked at the whole facility. As everyone's doing, we're ramping up how many hand sanitizer stations we have around the facility, making sure that there are no touch hand sanitizer stations, so you're not pumping out that hand sanitizer. Adding wipe dispensers everywhere, because we're not going to get this done on our own. As much as we try, our staff can't do it all. So a big part of our push is going to be to get our membership base on board with what we've always wanted them to do: wipe down your equipment before and after use, and I think there's a great opportunity to actually get that going. But so we're kind of looking at it from a perspective of what are we doing, and then also what are you doing as the member. We'll provide everything that you need, everything possible, in order to be safe. But it's a team effort for sure. So it also includes the temperature checks, which I know we'll get into a little bit later. when we're answering questions, but we'll be doing temperature checks before entering the facility, making sure that we will be requiring members to wear masks at this time, and staff will also be required to wear masks. Not all staff will be required to wear gloves. That will be more of just a frontline staff and housekeeping. And that's it. That's kind of the high level of everything.
Great. Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yeah, you answered a lot of the questions there, which is fantastic. Blair, I know you've been working on a lot of this as well, and you actually have done some surveys as part of MXM that have helped, I think, probably form your cleaning protocol procedures there at ClubWorks as well. Do you want to share some of the highlights there for ClubWorks?
Yeah, so just for clarity, our clubs are actually just called Works. And and just to make it even more confusing, our parent company is called ClubWorks. So,
okay, there you go.
Works of Wenatchee Valley are our two clubs. We're going on about 40 years in business in the Wenatchee Valley. But I'm going to put on my MXM hat for a minute here. And we offered this, shutdown feedback system free to anybody in the industry. As I sit here this morning, there are 629 clubs utilizing that, and we have over 130,000 pieces of member feedback. We're using Medallia's text analytics to understand all of the open box comments relative to the question when thinking about coming back into our club immediately after reopening. What is most important to you? And in that question, we did not want to lead the witness and have a pick list. Because we have text analytics that can create themes around that, allows us to quickly understand what member fears are and what parts of members don't have fears about this, because there's a large constituency that doesn't have any fears. They have some heightened concerns about this. Allaying member fears, though, we saw those starting to heighten quite a bit before the shutdown ever happened, which allowed us to get out ahead of this. Looking at tens of thousands of pieces of feedback, get out ahead of this and frame up something that made sense for fitness operations. And so looking at that information, we see what's extremely important to the member. And I would describe this like the member is saying things that what you need to do as a club owner, and listening to Maria and Eddie, they are doing the things that the member is saying you need to do. You need to, in the biggest piece of noise out there. And so Eddie just finished this with, we're not going to do this on our own. I'll tell you, the biggest piece of noise out there is, what is most important to me? That other members clean the equipment. That is the biggest piece of noise. So, and I've said this before, the feeling that the member's having when they watch someone not clean that equipment, it's like they're watching somebody shoplift at Target. They see bad behavior. It's bad citizenship. Moreover, in the commentary, if they see the member not clean and they see a staff member in the area that also sees the member not clean, and they don't do anything, it's as though they just watched the manager of Target watch somebody shoplift and they didn't do anything about it. So, and the reason I want to emphasize this is because how good you are at member experience now even scales up more than it ever has. And there will be a stark contrast between those that are mediocre at this. So we have the benefit of seeing a lot of feedback and listening to a lot of really smart people in the industry consistently, like Maria and Eddie, and hearing people kind of go before us now, right? So we broke down, I love frameworks, by the way. So Eddie kind of created a framework there. And so we kind of broke ours down into frameworks as well. And we said, okay, what is it? There's something that we're going to do to kind of mass disinfect, right? Electrostatic spray guns. What kind of product are we going to use? What is the cadence of that going to be? So then we looked and we sourced what we thought were some best practices around that. Okay, we've got that problem solved. Then we looked at what we're calling the daily support cleaning, and that is, and the way I described this first piece of strategy here is that every member must become an extension of your housekeeping. And so when we looked at that, we said, how do we want to distribute? And then whatever tools that you're going to give them to be part of your housekeeping team, whatever tools you're going to give them must be broadly distributed, whatever that means, right? So the way we're broadly distributing those is We have bottles and we put hooks on literally every piece of equipment. So we will have hundreds of bottles that are out there, sort of public facing. Those are 16 ounce. We're adopting 8 ounce personal spray bottles with a different solution in those for the people that don't want to use the spray bottles out on the floor. Every member will be given a sweat towel and a black microfiber cleaning towel as they come in. There will be many more microfiber cleaning towels available out on the floor. We will supplement that in a few spots with Sani wipes. In the locker rooms, we're using exclusively Sani wipes. So, and we don't have giant clubs. We have 2 clubs, and so we have we have Sani wipe stations. We already have 4 Sani wipe stations for our locker rooms. As I was going through member feedback and drilling down through text analytics, and got caught by the amount of around the theme, the amount of feedback around the theme, wipe equipment availability. And typically when we think of that, we think of we got to have it everywhere. That's true. As I read through that, the word empty kept coming up. And it dawned on me that I need 2 Sani wipe stations in every locker room, because you won't know when it goes empty. And same with hand sanitizers. We are now looking at where we're going to be putting 2 hand sanitizers. And I will tell you this: it will save you money. Because if you only have 1 hand sanitizer there and somebody's making the rounds and they get there and it's low but not empty, what's the procedure? Do you pull it out and waste that hand sanitizer, or do you wait and let it go empty? So we're looking at having 2. We're looking at product around this as sort of like toilet paper, right, in a stall, so that it doesn't run out. So we looked around kind of the mass, the daily cleaning, the hand sanitizing, and then the air. Those are kind of the 4 places that we, and we're doing a lot of the same stuff everybody else is doing for the floor spacing. We're waiting to get guidance. I don't know what we're going to do on masks yet. I don't know. We won't open till probably the 3rd week of June. And so I'm waiting to see the guidance on that. And also, frankly, there's going to be a lot of people that go before us that will give me a lot of information that I probably wouldn't have otherwise had, so I'm not going to make that decision yet. Definitely taking temperatures of employees, not necessarily members yet.
Right, right. Yeah, that's very smart to kind of watch and learn from others as they go through this.
Yeah, if you have the opportunity,
Yeah, if you do. Well, Bruce, I know you've got a background, obviously with your company, all on, sanitizing and everything. So you've got a perspective, and I know that you were a director at a rec center at one point as well. So you also have an operator perspective from the past. So share with us a little bit about your thoughts on some protocols and how sanitizers work and whatever you want to share right now.
Thank you, Pam. Nice to meet everybody on the call here.
Nice to meet you, Bruce.
If I've looked distracted, it's because I've been taking copious notes on what everybody's doing and their approach they're taking. Because yes, I had been on the fitness director, fitness manager side of facilities. And Blair, you hit a lot of hot button topics when you talk about bad behavior. And because that is why, back about 15 years ago, when I was the director of a large fitness center, bad behavior by people not cleaning their equipment led me to think there had to be a better solution. That's why I invented my product, the Gym Valet, which is a convenient holder that attaches the equipment supplies right to the equipment. And you talked about how you are trying to achieve that. So a lot of the buzzwords that you were talking about, especially Blair, are the reasons and my mission and what I'm doing right now. I can also talk on the question Maria had about the solutions that you might use. So that's very interesting because what we're dealing with is a novel virus particle. Are you having trouble hearing?
Yeah, you're cutting out just a little bit there, Bruce.
Okay.
But
that's better.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Your video is a little frozen up for me as well, but that's fine. As long as we can hear you, that's great.
It's nice because my router is literally 4 inches from me.
Yeah, we saw it on your camera when you started.
So anyways, things you have to consider, just off the bat, the solution, what solution are you using to sanitize your equipment? And there's a lot of solutions out there. It's interesting, if you look at the CDC guidelines, they recommend soap and water, bleach, and alcohol. I know, Maria, you said you were using some alcohol, but in the fitness center setting, bleach and alcohol are very harsh on the surfaces of our equipment. So there are better options. What you see most frequently through the spectrum of the EPA recommended EPA solutions is a solution called quaternary ammonium. That is a broad spectrum sanitizer that was developed for use in hospitals, so you can kind of call it the hospital grade sanitizer. And that is very effective. And I don't use the word killing when I talk about.
You're cutting out again a little bit there, Bruce.
I don't use the word killing when I talk about coronavirus. The word I like is dismantle. It is a particle, very small particle. You see these big pictures where it's 6 inches across. You can fit many million of them on the head of a pin. That's how small it is, and it has to be intact when it enters the body to do its damage, cause the processes that happen when it starts eating cells. So the disinfectants that are on the market, one that is used most frequently is quaternary ammonium. You see it in many solutions. You see it commercially. You see it for consumers. That is probably the best active ingredient to find get in your solutions. And
can you spell that for the audience, Bruce? Aquamonious.
Quaternary, ammonia, AMMONIUM.
Okay.
Sometimes
great.
you see it in quats. So that is a solution. And when it is used, the good thing about viruses, they are very easy to dismantle on hard surfaces. The first week of your town halls, Pam, you had Dr. Grover on, and that's one of the first things he said. It's very easy to dismantle on hard surfaces. It's very difficult to deal with, as we know, when it gets inside the body. So if you get a good solution and you can dismantle these particles on the surfaces with some of the protocols that you've talked about, spraying it on, make sure it's fully covered, and then wiping it off with at some time. Now that's another interesting thing. The EPA certification of all the solutions you see out there is based on something that's generally not reasonable in the fitness center setting. EPA standards for a product to be certified is pre-wash the surface with soap and water, dry it, put on the sanitizing solution. There you have the dwell time. I think, Ed, you called it contact time. That dwell time is recommended to be 2, 5, 10 minutes. How many minutes do you have between users getting off a machine and someone getting on? It's not the reality of our industry. So the best we can do, as I heard once at a Club Industry East meeting, is low-level sanitation. I hate to say it, that's about the best we can do. So, but be assured that the solution, if you use a good sanitizer, hospital grade, you're killing most everything on contact. Give it a few extra seconds now, and then you have very good disinfection. Just tell your people, keep your hands away from your eyes, your nose, and your mouth, and wash your hands before and when you leave the gym, and you're in good standing. So that's the effectiveness of it. And the frequency, as Blair was saying, before and after, that's the new normal. It's not good enough to do it when you're done. You have to do it at both ends, and that will be the new normal. You have to understand, people are going to walk into your facility and they're going to look around. How much is my gym protecting me? Their perception is your reality. They have certain standards they're going to expect you to meet in terms of where the sanitizing supplies are, what they are, and how frequently you are asking people to use it. I always say cleaning is a team effort between the staff, facility, and the member that's actually really being engaged now to do it. So again, the best way to get frequent before and after cleaning is to place cleaning supplies as close as possible to the user, so there is no question. Within a few feet at most, they have to be able to put their hands on something, whether it's attached to the equipment, whether it's disinfecting wipes. If you can put them that close to every piece, because the active ingredient in most wipes is quaternary ammonium. It's equal across the board generally. So you can really be effective if you get it close to the person. It's an exponential decrease in the probability of using it for every foot away from the machine you get. That's just human nature. If it's close, they will do it. And then you have to just be on the people, make sure they do it, as Blair said, because you are going to need a person to deal with conflict. What's the new normal here is forever we've gone into gyms and we've been breathing in the air, the respiratory particles that people have been releasing in their breathing, accelerated breathing when they're working out hard. Plus, we have fans blowing, we have people walking, we're in close proximity. We've been in a cloud of respiratory particles every day we've been in the gym for our whole lives. But now we have a novel virus that our bodies aren't used to. So that is the issue here. And when these particles to land, it's on your body, it's on your hands, it's you breathe it in. That's how people are getting the coronavirus, this new novel virus. So you have to think about that. That's where the distancing comes in. And that's where people realize if they touch rub their arm because it itches, then they wipe their face. It's not wipe the sweat off. That's how you can have transmission. So these are just some of the first thoughts I have on the solution, the effectiveness, the placement.
Great.
And the tie-in with the respiratory aspect of this very unique novel virus.
Great. Thank you, Blair. You were cutting out a little bit there at the end, but I think we got the gist there. So thank you so much. It's great perspective that you bring to this, and thank you for sharing all that information. So guys, I want to get to the questions. Again, thank you for those that overview. We do have several questions that I want to get to before our hour is up here. Allaying member fears is so important, and obviously you guys are putting protocols into place. How are you planning on marketing that, so that people are aware that you're doing this, and how important is the marketing aspect of this? As I think Bruce had just mentioned, it's the people are going to walk in, and that perception that they have of how clean your facility is going to be so important. So, putting up signs, sending out emails, having people walk around the club, whatever the case may be. Maria, do you want to start with what you plan on doing as far as marketing how clean your facilities are?
Sure. Yes. So we looked at our surveys, and 30% of our members said, we're going to come back within a week right away. The other 30% said, maybe within 30 days, we want to see what you're doing. And the remaining 40% said, we really want to see what you're doing before we even commit to answering the question. So we really feel that marketing is a key component of this. People need structure. We need to alleviate their fears. They're not even going to walk in through our doors and give us an opportunity unless they can somehow validate what the environment is going to look like. So we are doing all of that: social media posts, emailing our members. In fact, we've been emailing our members already. So we've already started taking pictures of how we've been sanitizing the studios, the cleaning products, taking pictures of those and posting those on social media as we're purchasing them. We feel that the communication needs to start now, and we need to start building confidence in our members now through social media, through emails, through texting. It's funny because one of the things that we overlooked and just thought about it a couple days ago was our website. We need to post our protocol on our website. Our members are going to go to the studio pages and they're going to want to know, what are you doing? And it's not just social media and email, which is, one and done. It needs to be timeless, and it needs to be there for people to access it, because when they get the urge to come, they're going to want to say, well, I don't really know if I should, and what's going to happen if I go there. And going to the website is going to be an important part of that effort. So I think everyone needs to start communicating now and build confidence, because there is a lot of fear out there and our members need structure.
Great ideas. Yeah. Eddie, what about there at Chelsea Piers? So how are you guys going to be communicating what you're doing to your members?
Yeah, this is something we really just started working on pretty recently. We were kind of waiting until we really dialed in what our protocols were going to be. So over the last 2 weeks or so, we've been working on what our marketing plan is going to be. Actually, on Monday, we are going to start making just a short video of what our cleaning process looks like. And I think one of the most important things when you're relaying this information is just transparency. Put all the information out there. How are you doing it? What products are you using? Are you training your staff? so on and so forth. And, you got nothing to hide. So just making sure that, you're 100% transparent about what you're doing. And then, I mean, to me, kind of on top of it all, as Maria mentioned, most people are not, they're going to wait to come back. So the biggest thing, we can market all we want right now, but it's going to be implementation once we do open. So making sure that, our staff is trained so that we can really nail this, like nail it when you open, so that, there's no better marketing than word of mouth and people saying that, hey, for me, when people come to Chelsea Piers, they were comfortable. Hey, Chelsea Piers is doing a great job handling this whole process. So that's what we really want to nail. So yeah, for now, definitely updating our website, making short videos and Instagram posts and things like that. But on the long term, we're really focused on our process and making sure that everybody knows exactly what we're doing and is, we're attacking this as a team.
Yeah, I think word of mouth will be very important. Blair, how about you? What about your facilities?
Yeah, the minute I start to see a ton of member comments, and so across 130,000 pieces of feedback right now, 69.5% of respondents are saying they're highly likely to come back, extremely likely to come back right after you reopen. Our clubs right now are running at 90.2% extremely likely to come back, and 8% are in the 7 or 8 category at likely to come back right after. So we need to be prepared. Early information from clubs, about 25 to 30% of your normal, you're on your daily visits in the first week. That goes up to 40 to 50% the second week. That's quite a dynamic, and you need to be thinking about dynamics because what happens when it gets to 100% or 105%. So if you look at that feedback, the members are screaming the things they value more now. And I have to emphasize this. Members have always valued space. I don't care how nice the club is. The minute it's too crowded and I can't do the job that I'm trying to get done, then it's a bad experience, no matter how nice the club is. So they've always put a premium on personal space. That's going up now rapidly. I don't know how long it'll be at that high, but that's going up there a lot. The other thing they put a value on, the latent need, and everything they're telling you that what I want to see you do, the latent need is just keep me safe. That's the latent need. And so when you think about that, and then you think about all the things you're doing, Bruce is talking about some of the products, we're talking about all the protocols. We're branding it. We're calling it the Works Member Shield program. And so I've been saying that your cleaning and sanitizing processes is the new value-added programming. So we all have classes and stuff that we market to say, we name it. It's named something. It's a hot yoga class, and people kind of know what that is, and they think about it, and we can market that out there. What we're doing is we're saying we have the new Works Member Shield program, and it's made up of these things, right? And then we're actually on TV. We've doubled our marketing spend in the months that we're closed, and we've brought in a videographer, and we have shot in empty gyms talking about the member feedback and what we see in the feedback, and we're just telling. We think our Works Member Shield program has the best chance of keeping you safe. I want you to think about this. Hey, Maria, Eddie, you guys are doing such smart things around this, and remember, there's going to be some contraction. I think it's really important to think about talking to people that aren't your members about this. This is high value. People are going to be looking and saying, wow, if they're doing that much to keep me safe, and if you can brand it as something, then you can just talk about that brand and people will remember, oh, they're doing all these things. So an example, a lot of the stuff that we have looked at as operators, people are looking at the systems for sanitizing the air, looking at electrostatic sprayers, might be looking at sanitizers that actually carry microvoltage in them, and you're looking for these best practices. That B2B marketing that those companies are using to sell to us, that's your new B2C marketing. Mm-hmm. That is, find the pieces that Bruce has, right? Find what Bruce has that he would try to sell to us. Think of how you can take that and move that right through to the marketplace, because they care about that now. They really care about it. When you have, you know, I can't tell you how many member comments of people that would say things like, is that water in those spray bottles? I don't even know what's in those bottles. Do your people clean? Do you do any sanitizing after hours? All of that. They're saying they value that a lot. So we're marketing, we're certainly doing everything out to our members. We do videos out to our members. We are now doing more detailed videos using a videographer talking about exactly the processes. So we're breaking the details down into many, so that those can be many short pieces of marketing video, but also real information. And we're making it clear that what you see us do, that we're marketing to you, that when you come in, you'll actually see it happen. Yeah, we're operationalizing it. And that's a critical piece, and why people really need to see through the eyes of their customer and say, okay, but in that, you know, daily dance of frontline operations, does the member actually see it? Then your marketing kicks ass, right? Are we being recorded? No. Are we not?
No worries.
Pam, can I add a quick reinforcement to that?
Sure.
What everybody said, you're spot on. And again, it's their perception is their reality. And in response to this COVID virus, I wrote an informational sheet, because if I fielded 100 phone calls on, does your solution kill coronavirus? And I go into the explanation of what it is and what it takes to kill it, and the solutions that we use kill it. And I've explained that. That's the active ingredient. I also talk about another active ingredient, which is the staff and the member actively participating in this hygienic cleaning, sanitizing process throughout the gym. So Blair is exactly right there. And if you do that, if you make videos, take pictures, have your people see your staff cleaning in addition to the members, some people come in who are a little unsure. They'll say, boy, my club really cares about me. This is the kind of club I like to belong to. And then word of mouth, like Ed was talking about, that's how it spreads. That's free sales and marketing on what you're doing, just based on your new protocols, the new normal. So,
and I would encourage all the B2B companies out there that are selling to us to think about what kind of member-facing, market-facing things they could actually be creating to supply to us that are sort of more. I mean, look, we got to make, dismantling. I like that term, dismantling the virus, and I believe it's because it's wrapped in fat and protein, and if you can dismantle that, then it dies. But okay, how do we make that sexy in a short video, right? And show it actually at the virus level, what happens. I mean, that type of stuff, I think, is a huge opportunity for the B2B companies to engage with operators like us.
Yeah, in fact, I'll comment on that, Blair. I actually was shopping 2 different vendors for the same product, and for the UV HVAC add-on, and I went with the vendor that actually had consumer marketing education. So I think that's a really great point.
Love it.
Good tip for the vendors out there too, Maria, that they need to be thinking about that as vendors too.
Mm-hmm.
So I do want to, we've got about 15 minutes or so left here. I do want to get to specific areas of the club, because we had a lot of questions on that. But before we do that, just real quickly, I wondered about screening for employees and members. I think one of you mentioned that you hadn't made, I think that was Blair, mentioned you hadn't made a decision yet on masks. But as far as screening, will you be taking temperatures, and what happens if you have to turn someone away? How are you going to do that and not offend them? Maria, why don't we go ahead and go in our regular order there?
Sure. Yeah, well, I think that one of the things that we haven't talked about right now is our staff. Our staff is feeling very vulnerable, almost like a frontline worker. They're going to be there all day. They're going to be exposed to more people. So there's a lot of conversation about, what if staffs aren't comfortable coming back to work, and how do you handle that with unemployment? And that's a whole nother town hall that we'll have to do. Yeah. But I think, Lindsay Vastrolas, actually, who's one of, a resource for club industry, actually wrote an amazing letter. It's to the staff. And I think that we need to tell our staff, what is it that we expect from them? How are we going to support them? because that's what they need. And as long as we give them that structure, for example, we will be taking your temperature, we will be asking you to wear a mask, but we will supply that mask. We don't expect you to come in if you're not feeling well, even if it's beyond the allotted time that you have. We need to set those expectations up front and communicate it to them so that when we do hold them, accountable, they're not as delicate conversations, they're not surprises. It's more of, a win-win agreement that we're just executing on in a partnership way.
Mm-hmm. Great thoughts there. Eddie, how about you guys there at Chelsea Piers?
Yeah, to Maria's point, I do agree that everything that you're saying to the members really should be going to your employees as well. A member gets to come to the facility and leave in an hour or an hour and a half, and your employees got to be there all day with hundreds or thousands of people. So they're in an even more risky position. But as far as temperature checking goes, we are planning at this time to check temperatures. Again, like Blair said earlier, it's fluid. We do have the opportunity, hopefully, to see what other clubs do, and we could change that. Likely not. We may change the mask thing because that could be tough to work out in a mask, and I understand that. But right now we're kind of erring on side of caution, and we're going to require everything. So we will require temperature checks. So what we're really looking at, that kind of creates a line at the front of your facility. So how do you cue that line? Make sure you have proper distance. If you're doing it outside, are you buying tents, in case there's inclement weather? So what does that physically look like for a member coming into the space? Also, to tie that back to the marketing piece, that is a video that we'll be doing. What is your new experience at the club going to be like? What do you expect when you get here? But as far as taking the temperature, can definitely turn into an awkward scenario, I think. So we have no contact forehead thermometers. We have thermometers from 2 different brands. So if somebody does fail on the first try, you'll just take it again immediately. It's very quick. It takes like 2 seconds, if that. Take it again immediately. Maybe it was wrong. If they fail again, try a different brand because it'll be right there on the desk. And if they fail again, at that point, I think we would, either ask them to leave or give them an opportunity to just, maybe they ran to the club. Maybe it's hot outside. Let them know what the situation is. Your temperature was, we're going to call it 100.4 right now is going to be our guideline. Your temperature was over 100.4. If you'd like, you have the opportunity to go outside and cool down for 15 minutes and come back and try again. If not, we're going to have to ask you to leave. If you continue to have, conflict with the member, at that point, we call over a manager. We're considering having an in-ear thermometer on hand that would be a little more accurate, that we wouldn't use on a regular basis, but give them the option. Would you like to take your temperature with the in-ear thermometer? They all have covers. We can sanitize the cover right in front of them. They can do the temperature themselves if they're more comfortable. Hopefully it doesn't all get to that point, but on top of it all, I think we'll create a bit of a script for the staff as well and do some role-playing training, in that prior 2 weeks, like I was talking about, get people used to kind of dealing with that situation because,
right,
it will happen at some point. So.
Yeah, I think role playing will be important. Blair, unless you have thoughts on that, I might want to jump to the next question, but I
do have thoughts on that.
Okay, all right. I figured Kelly did. Go ahead.
On the note about training employees, I think it's critical that they're not going to get this right if you tell them by memo. The role playing is critical. I think creating what I call micro case studies is critical. Here's the scenario: you have a local physician. They just move the treadmill and they're walking on that treadmill next to another person and it's their wife, except your state has mandated that you can't do that. Approach them. Let's talk about the best way to approach. What kind of language do we use? We're developing what we call compliance ambassador training, and every single employee will be trained on this, not just now as an event, but as part of onboarding from forevermore. And that is, how do you get people to comply without doing violence to your staff friendliness? Because that's one of the biggest drivers of loyalty is staff friendliness. So there's that. Second, member journey mapping. I've done thousands of member journey maps by now. And that's Eddie was kind of hinting on this right there. So picture, yeah, if you're using decals on the floor and people are 6 feet apart, where are you going to take that temperature? And at that moment, what do you say at that moment? Is it best to have people maybe get behind a screen or something? Just think through it. And who's the one going to be taking the temperature and what are they going to say? Lastly, I think one of the biggest things clubs should be doing by far on this, if you are going to be checking members' temperature, ask them to check it before they leave. Give them, you all have thermometers at home. Please, here's some easy ways to check your temperature before you leave. If you can get the thermometer strips and give them out to people to use at home before they come down, let's see if we can avoid that bad member experience in the first place. And maybe by just pushing that out via video, you're going to avoid that. And so, like Maria was saying, setting the very clear expectation. I know the expectations. Check my temperature before that might just be part of the etiquette that we put in place. It would be a good idea to check your temperature before you come in. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Good point. Good point.
Good point. The issue I see there is if they didn't have a temperature at home, they get there and you say that they do, there could be an argument there, but who knows? Who knows?
But it's probably more like what Eddie's saying, they ran down or something like that.
Right. Probably. So I do want to because we had a lot of questions on cleaning specific areas of clubs like group fitness and locker rooms. So I think group fitness is probably one of the big areas of concern, particularly because there are so many accessories that are used in group fitness. So Maria, I know with a yoga studio, a lot of people might bring their own mats, their own bricks and things like that, but they also might be sharing the products that you have there. So what are you guys thinking as far as handling that with all of those accessories?
It happens between every class. So we're actually having the instructor stay after and help. So we're having 4 people go in the room where normally it was none. Normally props would get cleaned maybe sometime once every couple of days. We're removing things from the studio, such as blankets that can't be necessarily washed. So we're minimalizing the amount of props that we're using. We're encouraging that our members purchase and bring their own props. But regardless, even though we're cleaning before and after individual use, we are completely cleaning every prop in between every class. So it is a feat. But it's important and it needs to be done. Some of the products will be kept at the front that members will ask for so that we know that the ones that haven't been taken are clean. So then we can minimize the amount of props that we have to clean in the studio itself. So for example, mats were previously in the room. They will not be in the room anymore. And members will ask for them upon request because that's an item that members are expected to bring is usually their own mat. Whereas something such as, blocks, they take up too much space. We need to keep those in the studios themselves. So those are some of the things that we're doing.
Right. Eddie, how about you guys? Because I know you have group fitness there. You also probably do some circuit training with things like battle ropes and kettlebells, things like that. How are you planning on cleaning some of those accessories in group fitness?
Yeah, very similar tactics, kind of expanded to things outside of yoga, but same thing in yoga. We're only going to allow mats and blocks. We're actually not allowing members to bring their own mats because we're going to set the mats up to make sure that we have the proper required spacing between the mats. And then in terms of class schedule, spacing out our classes enough so that we get in and disinfect anything that was used, anything that was touched in the room or the studio or the space prior to the next class. The group fitness classes I actually find to be a little bit easier because you do have a scheduled start and stop time and you have that gap and figure out what it is and you have the space to yourself to clean it. It's more like the small equipment on the floor, the same things that you mentioned, like battle ropes and kettlebells and things like that. How do you deal with that? Because you don't know which ones got touched. You can't do everything all the time. So we are limiting the amount of equipment on the floor. If we normally had 8 40-pound kettlebells, we're going to have 3, because we will have less people in the gym as well. So kind of accounting for that. Equipment that has, like, say, a soft or porous handle, like fans that have like a foam handle on them, that's not easily disinfected. And it stays, if you do properly, it's going to stay wet for quite some time. So we're just going to take those off the floor. You can also consider putting like a vinyl wrap or vinyl tape on it, something that is easier to wipe down. So it's a lot of equipment reduction. Floor and the group fitness is, like I said, it's spacing out the classes and making sure that we get in and hit everything. To make it easier, we're using backpack sprayers. You can cover a lot of area pretty quickly. So that's what we're focusing on.
Right. And Blair, what about you guys? And also, we had several questions on turf and flooring because COVID-19 can live on shoes, supposedly, some studies are showing. And I think a lot of people are concerned about, well, how do I shampoo my flooring on a regular basis? And, it takes a while for turf to dry, et cetera. Maybe you can handle
Yeah, so
for that question.
Okay. Yeah, what we're going to be using on turf is a product that has a micro voltage in it, and it kills using voltage, and it lasts for about 3 weeks. So, and it has a slight silicone base to it, not enough to make anything slick, but it makes it adhere nice, and so turf is like an ideal place to use that. So that's what we've sourced. We'll use an electrostatic sprayer with that product when we're doing equipment and everything, but that's what we'll be using on the turf. We're going to reduce the time in between to 2 weeks for our usage, even though they show it does kill virus for up to 3 weeks. So, and then I do want to add one thing that we did is we very early on engaged with a physician who's an infectious disease expert here, and we've run everything by him. Right, every bit of documentation that we have goes to him first. If it's from a peer-reviewed journal or a piece of research, instead of me giving myself brain damage, I just give it to him. And if he says this looks great, and he looks at the dwell time and kill time, and then he comes back to me, and then we adopt. And we use him in our marketing, by the way. That we've had everything looked at by Dr. Greg Ledgerwood and so on. So. And then other than that, I'm stealing ideas from people like Maria and Eddie as we sit here.
Likewise.
That's great. That's
I had a
great.
little something.
Sure.
Sorry, I lost my camera.
Yeah, no worries. We can
All
still
right.
hear you.
One thing you talked about group exercise and circuit training. Think about what your members' perception will be, especially in circuit training, if you're going from machine, from piece to piece to piece. What's that next person who gets on it going to say? You have to find a way to put the sanitizing supplies, especially early on, right there, because you don't want to disrupt the circuit, but you want the people to be able, if they almost demand that they do, give what they had just been using a little spray or wipe. So the next person who inherits it will say, hey, this is clean and safe for me. Otherwise, people are going to go, I don't know about that. And it could kill those classes. The other thing was we've done a lot of research this week on the rubber flooring that a lot of people have. And our recommendation we came up with was to call the manufacturer of that flooring to see what is the best specific disinfectant product to use on the rubber surface. Turf is a different ballgame, but rubber surfaces that people have, call the manufacturer, they can guide you. That's the best guidance. And also for these little tricky things, a wet mist isn't bad. You have the supplies right there. Give it a little wet mist. So it might be a little wet when the person inherits it, but that's disinfectant doing its thing with dwell time. So your hands on it during the dwell time.
You're cutting out a little bit there, Bruce.
If it's still a little moist, that is wet solution doing its thing. It's that's the dwell time, and that is actually very good.
Right.
I can say one more thing on wet surfaces. Get a lot of questions about in the system we support, Gym Valley, is a spray bottle and a reusable towel. We talked about in that word that I've created, which is dismantle. So if your solution dismantles the virus particles and any other thing, and they cannot recombine, it is dead. It is incapable of doing its damage. So if you wipe with a towel versus a wipe, you're achieving great success, especially if that towel is moist from previous use. It's not icky, sweaty. No, it is a boy. It's moist with sanitizer, and it just adds a prolonged dwell time. So I was speaking to a friend of mine who's been on the front lines as anesthesiologists in several areas of the country. I told him what was going to happen today, and he said, make sure you emphasize to them that that towel is the cleanest thing in the room. Think about it. It's not the perception that people might have, but that's the reality. That's the science. That's coming from medical minds also. Just wanted to put that.
That's very important. Yeah, because people, when they have something wet in their hands and they're wiping it, like a sponge in your kitchen or something, you're like, oh, there's all these germs on here. But if you're using the wipe on it, it's got that cleaning solution on it. So thank you guys all so much. I know we have a hard stop here, and we had some additional questions on locker rooms and childcare areas and things like that. But I will be sending the questions to the panelists here, and they'll be able to respond to those in writing. So look for those. We've got the first panel from the previous part one of this. Their responses are online now. We'll be putting the responses for these panelists online as soon as we can. So look for those at clubindustry.com on our town hall page. Thank you all to the panelists, Blair, Maria, Eddie, and Bruce, and thank you also to our sponsors, Fitness EMS, Zogix, and Volt. This webinar is on demand, so feel free to watch it again or offer your comments below the video. And we really do wish you all the best as you plan for reopening of your facilities. And it's going to be a interesting time for all of us. Everything's going to look different, but I think we're all getting some great ideas from each other. So thank you again, everyone, and watch for our next town hall coming to you very soon. Thank you and have a wonderful
Thanks,
day.
everybody.
Thank you.
Hey, guys.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Pam.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Pam.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Pam.
Yes.